I'm Linda Deir, the author of Guided. Her spirit guide angels were her best friends and life coaches. Guided is my true life story and winner of the 2017 International Body, Mind, Spirit Book Award. Since before I was 2 years old, I have seen, communicated with, and even photographed my spirit guide angels. In Guided, I use my own life as a template to teach you what I learned from these loving, intelligent spirits. Most importantly, I show you how to make the connection to your own spirit guides and angels so you can live a guided life, a life free of fear and doubt, the life you intended to live before you got here. Your real friends are still with you. They have been waiting for you to be ready. They are your spirit guides and angels. This week, with the help of my spirit guides, we will talk about how our friendship grows. That is, your friendship with your spirit guides and angels. So let's get started. I will be taking you on a journey back to the time when your friendship was developing with your spirit guides and angels. It will trigger your memory so you can realign with them, allowing you to reestablish this vital connection and recall the guidance and direction you received so early in your life. It showed you who you are and why you are here. Recalling how your friendship with your spirit guides and angels originally developed is vital to reconnecting to them now. This journey back will also remind you who you were back then, long before outside pressures started to dominate your life. This started with the simple things you did then when you were alone. Your life was filled with curiosity and exploration. There was no separation between you and your spirit guide angels. You were one with everything. Being connected like this was natural. It was a constant flow from one moment to the next, free of expectations. After all, you had nothing to compare this to. It was all new to you. This was the time in your life that you flew under the radar because no one took you seriously. It's like they were letting you grow through your kid stage in life, although you didn't realize this at that time. In fact, this may be the first time you ever thought about it. It was at this time in your life that you felt like yourself. Do you remember what that felt like? To help you get started, I'm going to talk about what it felt like then. To reconnect with this distant memory, which is based on the feelings you experienced then. This was happening before your reasoning started. You were running on pure knowing and feelings as this endless source of exploration consumed your life. This was the time in your life when you learned what you liked and didn't like. This wasn't coming from anyone telling you who or what to like or dislike, but was coming from your soul. You didn't talk about what you were learning because you were busy learning and experimenting with it. Again, this was all natural to you, so why try to make it hard by talking about it? Unfortunately, that will come later. You brought everything with you you would need in this lifetime on that very first day when you were born. With that in mind, it was at this time in your life that you played with these gifts and talents that you brought with you, a continuum from previous lifetimes, to explore them on a new level this time around. To trigger your own early memory of who you were before you came here, I will share something I recall from an early time in my life that defies reasoning while revealing my purpose. I was around 2 years old and obsessed with drawing colorful works of art, like large mural designs on the living room wall. When I couldn't reach any higher, I pulled a chair over to stand on so I could reach higher and wider. Although I was told not to do that again, as soon as my mother scrubbed my mural designs off the wall, I colored them right back on. This feeling was uncontrollable. The second time this urge hit me was in kindergarten, when I dominated playtime with the large building blocks. It was the same obsession. Fast forward 15 years, guided and driven by this same urge to design and build, I became an architectural home designer and home builder in my early 20s. I did all of this without a formal education, and I did it on a large scale. You will recall early gifts and talents that you brought with you into this lifetime when you reconnect with these early feelings that define you. It revealed itself to you then from an instantaneous urge, a passion you could not resist. It was showing you what you came here to do. It's an important part of your journey this time around. For me, it started with designing and building homes that people loved living in. This evolved into creating and building projects like this one that changes people's lives, which explains the message in the dream I had for the first 35 years of my life. It's time to go back to those early feelings that were irresistible and undeniable, even if you weren't allowed to pursue them then. These feelings, that urge, is still a big part of you. It is you. Write those early feelings into your journal without getting caught up in the reasons you were derailed. That just interferes with what you are meant to receive. It hasn't gone anywhere. It's a safely preserved treasure waiting for you to uncover, bring to the surface, and implement into your life. And this is what we're talking about today, is we're talking about Guided, my flagship book, and the journal that I created that is the companion journal to Guided, my guided journey, and how you guys learn how to do what I learned how to do from the time I was 20 months old in contacting and communicating with my spirit guide angels, asking for their help whenever I needed it, and getting a response, an intelligent response. All right. Okay, Ray Holly.
So you think I have some questions ready for you, huh?
I don't know. Do you?
I do. I do. I did my homework.
All right, Ray.
Okay, so we're talking about reaching the ultimate relationship and how it grows once you make that connection. All right. So first thing I want to establish something,
Okay.
that this is a unique relationship. It's unlike any other relationships. It's different, and the reason it's different, it's the only one that you brought with you when you came here.
True.
And it's the only one that follows you all through your life.
And
beyond.
are there to greet you.
Right.
When you're done
Okay.
here. How about that,
Just so,
you guys?
so everybody knows where we're at.
So you're never left standing alone at the bus stop. You always have them with you, all right? So
Okay.
Go ahead, Ray.
So last week we talked about these friends, your best friends, your number one friends that came with you into this life.
Right.
It's the only relationship you brought with you, and the relationship grows. That's what we're going to talk about this week.
Okay.
So looking back when you were little, see, this happened to you early in your life, before you were 2. You met them, you realized you had this relationship. So how did you know that the relationship was growing? How did it feel? What did you notice? What did you get comfortable with as it grew?
It's kind of like being spoiled. I was so used to having them there as I needed them, as I reached out to them. as I talked with them, as I played with my toys or the sandbox or whatever. And I knew they were there, so I was constantly having this dialogue, whether I was speaking it out loud or I was just, connected and it like telepathy. I was communicating with them. It was a natural thing to do. It was natural, and because I experienced this so much and so well from the beginning of my life, I know that telepathy is how we mostly communicate with the guides, and they communicate with you. But you just don't realize it. It's such a subtle, tender way of reaching you and you reaching them. See, it's two-way. It's not just one way. That it's also not something that shouts at you. It never shouts at you. So it's always consistent and smooth. It's always going on. It's a continuum. It's not unusual. Okay, it's just always there.
Were you shocked when you first saw them and met them?
Here's the part of it that I remember being confused about, all right? Before I met them at 20 months old, before that happened, and I was literally shocked into meeting them because of the fear I was in, because of what my mom did to me. It kind of forced me through the fear and put me right in line with them, and there they all were. Before that happened, I kept going, I hope someone's listening. I hope someone's there. But I knew something more was going on. I was noticing things other people weren't noticing. And I knew instinctively, not to talk about it, not to say anything about it, not to bring it up, not to let anyone attack me. I mean, it felt like they would attack me if I said anything because they weren't noticing anything. So that's when I was confused. I knew something more was going on. It started with the merry-go-round dream. I knew something was more that was going on, but I didn't know what it was. So it's like I kept it right here. It was in the periphery of my understanding at that time. It was right there. So I kept communicating with it and I kept noticing things and I kept playing with things and I kept, being interested in these things that were coming up that nobody else talked about or mentioned or anybody brought attention to any of this. So I just stayed with it. And then when this happened at 20 months old, I was there. That was it. So that's the only time it felt I wasn't sure what was going on. Like the merry-go-round dream, Ray, it was in the beginning I loved having it, but then when I seen what happened to everybody else in the merry-go-round dream and I couldn't stop it, it bothered me. And I kept wondering, why am I having this dream? And so that part bothered me. But then I realized, I had to step back and realize this dream is bigger than me, just like everything was bigger than me when I first came into this life. So
you knew when you started having this dream, first memory as a baby, that there was somebody there sending you this dream.
It wasn't long after the dream started that I realized something was going on. That was
before you saw them
at 20 months old.
At 20 months old.
Right,
okay.
Right.
So once you saw them at 20 months old, you weren't afraid of them because they felt familiar.
Then I felt relieved because I actually experienced their physical presence. And when I did, I remembered in an instant. I remembered who I was. I remembered where I came from. I remembered them. And I saw what they saw when they looked at me. So in that dimension of things, that way of looking at something, it's like it was like a life review in reverse. I saw what they remembered me as, what they knew me for before I got here. I saw what they saw. And it's like I knew all of it in an instant. I mean, that's remarkable. I knew it even then that was that was definitely something I wasn't going to be talking about, until I actually wrote the book Guided when I was 60 years old. I mean, that's safeguarding your secret a lot of time, and waiting a long time to do it.
Okay, so they appeared to you, you met them, you saw what they saw in you, and the relationship grew from there. Now, they don't come to you every day and say, well, today we're going to do this, or today we're going to do that. What do?
Okay, not exactly, okay?
Okay.
But they do that, okay? But they don't give it to you like instructions, like what the way Ray put it out there. That's what we're used to in this world. That's the way we're used to getting information and being told what to do or think or whatever. They don't ever operate like that. They never started that way, and they don't operate like that now. Because you see, you guys, we have free will, and they respect that, and they never interfere with that. Whether it's something that's, that you may regret later or not, they leave you alone to experience and explore and learn. So that's how this really works, Ray.
Okay. All right. New experiences. So the relationship is growing because of the new experiences. It's always on. The relationship is always on. That's the other thing that makes it different from other relationships. It's always on when you're awake or when you're asleep. How is it different when you're awake than when you're sleeping? When is it easier for them to teach you things or show you things? When you're awake or when you're asleep?
Okay, so I could say that it's when you're asleep, but it is when you're awake too. So it depends on what a person means by being awake, okay? Now, when you wake up in the morning, let's just start from there. You wake up in the morning, you're kind of still not with it, you're still waking up and you're still gathering yourself. That's when your connection to your guides is most open, is at that time.
Kind of like a twilight thing?
Yeah, and this is what I recommend that you do to make that connection, okay? Our relationship grows is the name of this episode. The way you do it is you just lay in bed after you wake up and you just go, okay, whew, and you just go back into a slumber. Don't go back to sleep. But you could go back to sleep. It could happen. I mean, you could drift off. But just let yourself receive what's trying to reach you, okay? Before you step your foot to the floor and start, making phone calls and getting on the internet and looking at your email and everything. Let it show itself. Let it come to you, okay? This isn't about you chasing it. It's about letting it come to you. And then document what you got. Document, if it's not something in words that you got, it's a feeling you got. It's a knowingness you got. Again, you're using your intuition, those atrophied muscles, you're building them back up again. And you're letting your guides know when you do that you are paying attention, you're listening. You're taking the pause that you need to do. I always say, time alone and slowing down. Those are the two things you need to do to make that connection again. It's like fast forward by slowing down. It's the opposite of what you think. You think going out there and multitasking and doing all this stuff is going to get you ahead of everything and make sure you're on time and get it all done and all that. That is not how it works at all. That does not speed up your life and make it better. The way that you make it better is by taking that moment and letting yourself receive what's coming through, what they're sending through. And if you do that every morning, your guides are going to know the signal that you send them is this is your MO. Every morning when Linda wakes up, we're going to be right there because we know that's when she's receptive to our guidance. And we're going to be right there sending it to her so she can capture it, whether it's a feeling she got or she actually got our telepathy in terms of words or just knowing something, all right?
Yeah, that was my next question. So they talk to you sometimes. They can appear right in front of you. You can see them.
Right.
Or other times you can just sense their presence.
Right.
You can hear them, or you can pick things up through telepathy and your dreams. And they like to come through your dreams all the time.
All of it.
And the issue is they never sleep. So they're always
on.
They're always on. This is why the relationship is always on. They're like a radio that broadcasts 24 hours a day.
That's right, Ray.
And you don't always hear it, but you sense it, or an event appears right in front of you that you have to address at the time.
And imagine, I want to say for a minute, imagine in this particular episode, it's number 4. It's the fourth page in my guided journey. It's a child, okay? It's a child. It's a child that has that. You have to go back to that time in your life when you allowed the wonder and the exploration to come through, where you weren't preoccupied with the way things have to be, with what you need to get done, with what's expected of you. None of that was going on at that time in your life. So go back to that time and start working those muscles again. Start remembering how that actually worked. Believe me, it worked. It worked for everybody. You just wiped it out. Your life dominated you and just took over. And if you forgot it, it's because of that. But it's not that it didn't happen. It's not that you didn't experience this early on. You've got that resource to refer back to.
Good. All right. How should you, or maybe the better question is, how did you feel when you first started this relationship as, less than 2 years old? How did you know, how did you feel as the relationship grew? How did you feel differently? I mean, at first...
I felt more fulfilled. I felt happier. I felt like I was understanding things. I didn't feel alone. I mean, I know that people feel alone. I never did. Even when my family, there was dysfunction going on in the family, and my mom would attack me. I always had this connection. It was like something that was sacred outside of this world that we live in this world. This relationship I had with these guides was sacred. Nothing here could interrupt it, interfere with it, could ever destroy it or make me question it. All right. I never thought I was crazy. I never thought something was wrong with me. I never thought that this was unusual. I knew this was normal. I knew this stuff going on here in this world, the drama, the chaos, all the confusion and the pressure that's people put on each other. I knew that was just, that wasn't, it didn't have to be like that. That's really the best way to describe it. And as I was more observant about what was going on than I was invested in it. There's 4 parts to guided. Part 1 reads, raised by spirit guides. That's what made this different for me. I was never really connected to any of this. I was, but I wasn't. I was always objective. I always observed what was going on. I learned not to take it personally.
That's a big one.
That was huge.
Okay,
it was bigger than I realized. I just see again, you guys, when this comes back to you, when you begin to remember it, and it comes back to you, and you reclaim yourself. That's what you're really doing. And you refuse to take things personally. You realize, wait, that's somebody else's opinion or idea of how to do something, not necessarily yours. And nobody's opinion is the total truth, okay? There's always room for another view of that or another perspective on it. So it is about not taking it personally. Until you can do that, can you really, really be objective and look at it and have a compassionate heart, okay? And I'm not saying that you just, lay down for everything and you're just, you're somebody who like a doormat. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that you just see it clearly. You see it for what it is. Your life is not complicated, but it is in a way, because now you see from a higher level. You're learning and growing and observing from a higher level than what's going on down here in this world. You are seeing things from a higher level, because when you're not taking it personally and you have compassion, but also how to balance this and manage both worlds. That's where it's at. That's what this is really all about.
Speaking of seeing things from a higher level, what are some of the milestones that you encountered, like floating out of your body, they teaching you how to float out of your body to the ceiling, seeing things from a higher level? What were some of the other things that were big? That you learned?
Okay, for example, what Ray just mentioned, that was that out-of-body experience when I was about 3, 4 years old. And they taught me how to go out of body on command whenever I wanted to, all the time, all right? And I could literally do it any time I wanted to. And I remember the feeling that I used, and it came from the breath. It came from the breath. That's why I always talk about the breath. Use your breath. That will bring you guides through, because you remove your own anxieties and resistance. That gets removed. That's out of the way so they can reach you, okay? Because they're always there. So when they taught me, when they don't teach you anything. When I did this, when I took advantage of learning this, it's like they put these events on your path and you look at it and you decide if you want to act on it or not. And I was all in. I acted on it. I learned how to go out of body. And until I questioned, see, there you go. You'll catch yourself going into this. Our relationship grows. This is when this happened in my life. And I was out of body, and I was having fun going out of body, getting the rubber darts off the ceiling that I shot on the ceiling before they came down and hit me where I was laying down on the bed. And one time I turned around and I looked down, and there I was. My body was laying on the bed. I'm at the ceiling. I'm going, and I questioned what was happening. Boom! I found myself slammed right back in my body. So hard my head hurt. And when I went to sleep, they came to me in a dream, and they said, you can do that as much as you want to, as long as you don't question why you are in two places at the same time, all right? So that's one of those moments where higher learning. And in the instant that I had that dream, I woke up and I went, I can do this now. As long as I don't question it, I can do this anytime I want to. And I did. I did it anytime I wanted to. Until one thing happened, and then I stopped doing it because of the chaos going on in the family home. I just really, in such a sensitive way of being and allowing myself to be vulnerable, I couldn't explore that much longer in that family because it was intrusive, is what I would call it. So when you do this kind of work, you want to do it where you have this quiet, peaceful, alone time, where somebody's not going to come blasting through the door and interrupt you and just throw you off. You know how it feels. When you're really concentrating on something, you're really focused on it and really into it, and somebody slams the door. You're like, you swallow your tongue. It's like, oh my God. You just really just want to go for a walk. You can't believe how that interrupted you. It's that kind of thing you don't want to have yourself exposed to when you're learning to walk back into this again, all right?
So with the relationship always growing, they're showing you new things like out-of-body experiences. They teach you not to take anything personally. Don't have it hurt you personally. How about...
Okay, I'll tell you how I did that. I'll tell you how that works. The guides, the more you have a connection to your spirit guides and angels, the more you understand what they're showing you and experimenting with what they're presenting to you that you're acting on. Again, it's free will, your choice. The more you do that, the more you learn, the more you become like them, the more you align with them. You're not missing it anymore, okay? The more you become like them, the more you understand how not taking things personally is important. The easier it is to perform on that, because that's what they're all about. You forget about them for 25 years, 30, 50 years, all right? They don't take it personally. They never went anywhere. They've just been waiting for you to be ready. So they never took it personally. They love you just like they love you always, all right? That's what it means by not taking things personally. They have compassion. They watched you get lost. They watched you.
They knew you were going to do it.
They did. And so they were, but steadfast and true. They never went anywhere. They've always been right there. Because that was your agreement before you came here, you guys. No way would you be foolish enough to come into this life without somebody standing beside you, looking out for you, guiding you. You would not do that.
So they show you a lot of interesting things as the relationship grows. You know, flying, how to fly in your dreams.
No, in life. Right?
In real life, but they showed you that in a lucid dream, right?
They showed me what not to do.
Oh, okay.
They showed me I could do it as much as I wanted. They showed me what to correct. So when I came back into this life and I did it again, how to do it so I wouldn't crash land.
And there's some interesting stories in Guided where the whole family would be in the living room watching television, and
I'd be
Linda
flying
would
around
be on
the room.
the ceiling.
I'd be flying around the room trying to see if anyone noticed, and then I'd sit up in the corner of the ceiling, and I'd watch everybody watching TV, and I'd watch them walk past me where my body was sitting in the chair, and they didn't notice anything was different. I mean, and again, my whole life has been filled with this. When my guide showed up in 1994, and I happened to have a camera in my hand in the room with 4 or 5 other people, family members, and I captured the photograph in the same room they were in, and they didn't even notice that this happened. So you're going to notice stuff like that. That's what's interesting, you guys.
It's called being conscious.
It's being conscious, and something could happen, and does happen, right in front of people's faces. Right. And the fact that they can't fathom that could even happen, the fact that they can't fathom it, they look right through it like it never existed.
Right.
Because they can't connect with it, So how many times have we done that, right? I'm sure I've done it too. Even as connected as I am, I'm sure I've missed it at times. I'm sure it slipped through my fingers too. It's like deja vu. Later on, I don't know how much later on, a year, sometimes you don't even know how long it's been since something happened, but something will happen in your life. You had a dream. You go, I had that dream before. I remember. Or you find yourself somewhere with people and you go, I've been here before. Okay, we've all had that. Okay, it's like that, and you know that something else is going on. That's what you're tapping into when you connect with your guides, and you start walking in 2 worlds. All right, you're no longer just like here, I mean, you're learning from a higher place. You're connecting the 2. Now you're integrating them. It gets interesting.
Okay, I was in the middle of my questions. I wrote some notes. I thought it was very rare that a relationship lasts forever. It's always been going on. And the other thing is it's always growing. That's the only one, your relationship with your guides, that happens. Okay. In real life, it's important to avoid needy relationships. And a lot of people have all kinds of needy relationships with their friends and family and their coworkers or whatever. So you try to walk away or distance yourself from those needy relationships. In your opinion, how do the guides deal with you, or how do your guides deal with you when you are a less than optimal friend and become needy?
Okay, when you say friend, who do you mean friend?
You're friends with your friends.
Okay, you mean people here.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and when you have a relationship with your guides and you act needy, how do they react? What do they do? You
mean when you act needy with your guides?
Yep.
Okay, so I think what Ray's talking about, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, Ray, is let's say something happens all of a sudden, catches you off guard, and you want to have an answer to that right now. Okay. In your day-to-day life, all of a sudden, you got released from your job. I mean, you lost your job, and all of a sudden you don't know how you're going to make your rent, or your car payment, or send your kid to school, or whatever it happens to be, whatever it is that threatens that you won't have the money for anymore. Now you need something. All right.
Now you have doubt about your future.
Yeah, that is right. You are doubtful.
And the doubt turns into
neediness
and fear.
Right.
So how do your guides are always steady. They never change.
Right. Okay, so here's my answer to this, and I got it. Before that situation happened, neediness, all right, before you got in a needy situation, it could be a relationship that ended, a job that ended, um, uh, you know, something that happened, that shifted, that changed. The economy changed, right? And it changed everything. Your strategy doesn't work anymore. Whatever it happens to be, the promise you made to somebody, you can't keep it anymore, whatever. The neediness, all right? Something happened before that went against you. You got guidance. They came through and they let you know it was time to change something. You got the guidance. You just didn't listen. You didn't want to hear it. You didn't want to be bothered with it. You didn't believe it. That was your argument. That was your defense against this higher knowledge. How could that be? That's crazy. How could I ever act on that? It was just a dream. Stuff like that. You just discard it, okay? And then all of a sudden these things happen and people will say things like, well, it caught me off guard. I didn't see it coming. It happened to me, okay?
Uh-huh.
Okay, all this kind of stuff. The victim thing starts to kick in. So that is, it's just that we weren't willing to look at what was happening when the guidance was gently and subtly delivered to us to give us the heads up, a warning, things are changing now. And this is how the guides send it to you. They'll do it like this. Things are changing now. It's time to make a course correction. Maybe just, 15 degrees, maybe 30. That's pretty good. That's a big one. 90 is really big, okay? But nevertheless, they come through and they give you a heads up. They've always, throughout my book Guided, I talk about many, many, many times, they gave me the heads up. They let me know the warning shot, the warning sign. Linda, it's time. It's time to make some changes, Linda. Linda, your marriage isn't going to work out. What? What? My marriage isn't going to work out? What? All right. All I had to do was sit back a little bit and gather myself and go, okay, these guides have never steered me wrong. And what their message to me was at 19 years old was, it's time for you to make your own way. And within 3 months, I was on my path. And I did it because they laid things in front of me, put me in touch with people, put people in front of me. I asked questions. I was encouraged to ask questions. I did. I asked people questions, and they led me to the next. It's like stepping stones. It's like your yellow brick road. You start to inquire about, so imagining that this could happen, what would I do right now to find my way so that when that does happen, I don't it's like getting off the railroad tracks. The train's coming, okay? You remove yourself from the railroad tracks so when the train comes through, it doesn't run you over. And then when the train comes through, you can get back on the tracks. Go right ahead, all right? But you're paying attention. You're making some changes. You're listening. You're writing it down. You're focused. You're living in two worlds. You know that this isn't all there is. Even if it was really, really, really good for you and successful, you know that they never steer you wrong. That's what you learn. Once you get knocked around enough times over here, you start to go, okay, I'm a little more humbled now. I can incorporate this into my life, implement this into my life, and your relationship grows.
The job situation was a perfect example. You lose your job all of a sudden. You're not expecting it. Comes out of the clear blue sky, and automatically you think, look what happened to me. Look what happened to me.
Victim.
You took it personally. Okay.
Perfect.
Once you say, look what happened to me, that means you took it personally.
That's exactly right.
So, but your guides didn't put that in your path to make you feel like a victim.
That was your choice.
That was your choice. That at the time it happened, okay? 3 weeks later, a month later, you have a new job, best job you ever had.
I know.
And they go, oh my God, the best thing that ever happened to me was, well, speaking from experience from somebody who's been fired in their life and
Fell into a bed of roses.
Fell into opening my own business.
And tripled your income.
Tripled my income first year.
That's called guidance, people. That's called guidance. But in Ray's situation, you took like 3 months to stumble around and figure it out?
Oh, but I knew ahead of time, remember?
Yes, you did.
For 2 months before I got fired, I kept saying, I get the feeling I'm going to get fired.
Right. So they were letting Ray know, okay? Because you guys, they never shout at you. They love you and respect you too much to do that. As your relationship grows, you're going to learn that these are the subtleties, the ways that they work with you. It's powerful, but it's gentle, okay? And they know that you can hear them. They don't need to scream at you. In fact, if it shouts at you, it's not your guides. It's not them, okay? Always know that. So whatever's shouting at you, it's working against you. So you have to find some peace and quiet. You have to find some way to get away from some of that. You've got to do it, or you're never going to make this connection to your guides, to yourself.
When you're in the situation, a lot of times it's hard to see it like they gave you something that's a gift.
Okay, that's why you've got to go back from the beginning, part 2, page 1 through 18. And this is the workbook part of this journal, where you go back and you recall what happened in those early years, so you can then now begin to live the life you intended. You can then now have this connection with your guides. You can begin to hear it. And when you do that, part 3, on the pages, on the journaling that are endless, where you print them out as you need them, you write in there what's coming through, what you're getting. Date it. Keep it in chronological order. Keep it in order. And then talk about, write down what you felt, what the dream you got, the guidance you got, however it came to you, driving in the car, in the shower, wherever it came through, washing the dishes. And then make sure that when the guidance comes through, on that same guidance page that you wrote it in on, what you felt, what happened, what actually happened 2 months later, or with your job, or down the road, how it unfolded. Okay, you write in there what that was. You guys, within 1 month, you're going to see a huge improvement in your awareness, in your guidance, in your energy. You're not going to be in panic mode anymore. You're going to be getting this information. You won't be suffering anymore. You won't be struggling anymore. That's what this is all about. The little child didn't struggle. The little child had this access. Okay? They may not have called it their spirit guides and angels. When I went out of body at 3-4 years old, I didn't call it out of body experience.
You call it fun.
I was flying. I was free. I was able, I could do anything. That's what it felt like to me in little children, kid language, right? That's what it felt like to me. It didn't feel like out of body experience. That stuff, I didn't even hear that term until I was in my 30s. And I went, what's out of body experience? And they said this. And I went, well, I've been doing that all my life. Now, at that point, I couldn't say that to them, because you know what it sounded like? It sounded arrogant. And I could feel it in the people around me. And I just went, well, I won't be talking about that. I actually lived it. And I on command. And in my dreams, like I'm always going out of body, okay? All the time. So there's just no limit to what you're able to do with this growing relationship. There's no limit to what you can do.
Which takes us to our next part. All right, now, not everybody had the benefit of meeting their guides and getting into this relationship early on. They came in with it, but they didn't may not have realized it.
Right.
They talked to their invisible friends. They had fun with their invisible friends until adults told them invisible friends don't exist, and you can't think about that. You can't say that. You can't do that. As soon as people started to tell you as a child
That's not kosher.
what you could do
Right.
and what you can't do,
Right.
your fun stopped.
Right.
Your real creative
what happened,
fun.
Here's what happened, and you're going to connect with this. You started to notice that your breathing changed. That's going to sound crazy, but if you go back and you start writing this stuff out, you're going to notice. Right now, I'm having trouble breathing as Ray's saying this. I can remember when certain things were said to me. I had to take that breath right there. That was so painful for me to take that in. Empathically, I could feel that. Okay, and that's such a life killer. All right, that it's the breath. You'll notice that you start to either breathe shallowly or you literally hold your breath. All right, but it's the first thing that you'll notice. Now, tell me how subtle that is.
Right. Okay, so later on in life, you entered into other relationships with friends and family and workers and everything else. Now, based upon how your spirit guides treat a relationship, you would be doing people a huge disservice if you compromised just to be in any type of a relationship. So since your spirit guides are steady, loving, and true, you should always try to be more like your guides when you enter into any type of a relationship. Because if you've been with them all your life, you become like the people you associate with. You should become more and more intelligent about the types of relationships that you enter into. Right?
Okay.
Okay.
So what is that question around?
That was more an observation, but
Okay.
I think what this would do for people is it would teach people what a real relationship looks like.
Okay. So I think this is the best way to put your head around this one. When you have a relationship with your guides, all of a sudden the relationships that you have in this world seem shallow and superficial. They're not anything near what you experience with your guides. They're not as interesting. They're not as loving. The guides, they're there with you all the time. There's no conditions. Your guides don't use love as a weapon. Okay,
That's a big point.
That'd be one way I could describe this. In my life, I've seen a lot of people use love as a weapon. If you want me in your life, well then, you have to do this and that. You have to be beautiful. You have to be, 50 pounds lighter. You have to have a really good job. You have to own a home. There's all these conditions. Now, they may not say that to you, but when you meet them, you can feel it. If you're around people who already possess those things, beauty, a good job, they go on vacations, they have a beautiful home, they most likely won't associate with you if you don't have those things, right? That is not the relationship you have with your guides. To them, that has nothing to do with having a relationship. Having a relationship is something that they are masters at. When they came to me, when I first took this photograph in 1994, and they came to me in a dream, like 2 weeks later, and I asked them why they appeared. They said, you're going to write a book about your relationship with us. Okay, relationships, okay? You're going to write a book about your relationship with us, and we appeared so the world could believe. So they are masters at relationships. They know better than anyone. So when you develop a relationship with your guides and you have this way of connecting that's subtle and sensitive and empathic, and when someone speaks with you, when someone's talking to you, you are all in. You listen. You are present. You're not trying to outthink them. You're not trying to figure out where you need to be next. You're not looking at your phone, doing this. You are present. There is no phone. There is no somewhere else. You are right there with them, okay? When's the last time you had a relationship like that? See, this is the difference. So by being associated with your guides, by having this connection to your guides, this relationship with your guides, you learn how to have a relationship. I mean, a relationship where you listen, you connect, you have compassion. We are living in the opposite world, you guys. The world we're living in is disconnected. There's no compassion. I mean, nobody cares. No one's living in the moment. They're running 1,000,000 miles an hour thinking that's going to be the answer to their life.
Go faster.
That's right, Ray. Right.
I think there's a great example in Guided about the difference between adults and children, little children, with relationship to the guides. You had this photograph on your mantle or your coffee table for 20 years while you were in the real estate business.
Right.
What would happen when a family came over and they had children?
It talks about it in Guided. This one family came over one time, and they brought their little daughter with them, and I think she was probably 4 or 5 years old. And they all saw that the picture it's a little picture on the mantle in my house. And they grabbed the picture and they were like, wow, that's really interesting. So the adults were passing it down the line. And it got down to the kid at the end, right? The kid always comes last.
Yeah.
Okay, and the kid grabbed the picture and looked at it and started crying and grabbed the picture and held it like this when the adults tried to take it out of her arms. She wouldn't let it go. So they understand. They remember. Just like I remember this when they showed up at 20 months old all around me in numbers and saved me from a terrible situation. Changed me forever. I'll never know how much because I've got nothing to compare it to. But the growing relationship, you guys, once you make this connection to your guides, once you identify in chapter 2, part 2, page 4 of this journal, My Guided Journey. By the way, this is a free download on my website, lindadeir.com. And it's
in 2 sizes.
I like the little half size.
I have the big one, full size.
And Ray likes the big size. So it all prints on normal paper in your computer, nothing special to do, PDF. And it's powerful. You start working with this and you start working through this and listening to these videos. We're going to do a video on each one of these pages, okay, 1 through 18. So they're going to have all the information you need in addition to the book to guide you through this so you can truly make this connection. It's our intention, Ray and me, in our effort in working through this with you to get you guys so you can make this connection so you make it, all right? And once you do, your life will never be the same. It will never be the same. It will be like the one you intended to live before you got here.
Yep. Once you have a blueprint, this is what this is, once you have a blueprint for what a real relationship looks like.
And feels and is like.
Right. You will apply that blueprint to every relationship you have from here on out. You
know, you guys, Ray and I could go on and on about what happens. And it's not just my life. Ray has every day, last night. I mean, I could go, and we're not going to go into details on it right now, but magic happens in our life constantly. Magic all the time. And it really is just remembering. But when you experience it, it will feel like magic. It really will. You will be reconnected. So, Ray.
I'm out of questions.
Okay. Do we want to finish this up?
Yeah, we can finish this up.
Okay.
Hold on here.
All right.
Way.
Okay. All right. So we'll finish that there. Okay. I have written a series of videos in support of the readers of My Guided Journey, the companion journal to my flagship book, Guided. Each week on Facebook Live, I will be talking about your journey back to the beginning when you first made contact to your spirit guides and angels. In these Thursday Facebook Live videos with me, you learn how to journal your hidden knowledge, documenting your life journey, revealing who you really are and why you are here. When you follow this, you not only get your life back, but you will never doubt yourself again. We'll see you guys next Thursday.
Week. Yep, same time, same place.
Okay.